So a little bit of info about me. First of all, if you're new to these sessions, then welcome. My name is Alison. I'm the founder of Avocado Social, which is our social media consultancy. We are 10 years old and we've worked across a wide range of businesses, organizations, brands over the last 10 years. So if you are interested in our services, then you can find out much more about us on our website, Avocado Social. But we run these updates each month. All of them are available to book onto on Eventbrite for free. So if you enjoy today's session, please invite your team, invite your colleagues, spread the word, because we want to try and get as much of this information out to as many social media folks as possible. So what are we going to be talking about today? Well, normally I do pick 10 updates. But we decided this month to actually keep it to 6 because there is quite a lot to discuss. And I'm sure many of you have questions to ask as well. So we thought we'd start with a bit of a look at the state of social media. We're going to be talking about those key metrics to measure for 2025. And we'll be looking at the latest on TikTok in the US. You've probably heard about Meta's fact-checking changes. We've also seen a lot of updates on Instagram this week, so I'll be taking you through some of the most important ones. And I've been asked a lot about BlueSky lately, so I'll be filling you in on the latest features and stats on that app too. So let's get straight into it then. The state of social in 2025. So it's really interesting to see that internet users, that's anyone that's 16 plus, is spending more time on social media than 5 years ago, and specifically 40% more time. So social media use has gone up. In the UK, where we are in particular, there have been increases in terms of how many hours people are spending on social media each day. It was around 2 hours and 40 minutes. Sorry, it was around 2 hours, 20 minutes. It's now up to 2 hours, 40 minutes. So we've certainly seen an increase in how much time people are spending on these sites and apps. LinkedIn, I think, is such a big platform for 2025. It's really one to consider as part of your strategies, particularly if you're targeting other businesses. But even if you're targeting consumers, if you're a B2C brand, LinkedIn shouldn't get ignored. And there are 1.5 million pieces of content shared to LinkedIn every minute. Also, Instagram usage. There has been an increase to 48% of UK consumers aged 16 plus. So that's just a UK specific stat, but we are seeing more and more people using Instagram globally, particularly with all of the news that's happened recently with TikTok. So all of these stats are taken from a social media report that we and the team have been reading this week called Strategic Social Media Report, Trends and Predictions, What to Expect in 2025. The report's well worth a read, and my colleague Sarah will be dropping it into the chat for you to have a look at in the next few moments. If you're watching this on replay, you can find the link in the show notes underneath this video. What else is happening then? So in the UK, usage among 20 to 24-year-olds fell from 46% at Musk's takeover to 31% 13 months later. So this is looking specifically at X. So we are seeing fewer people using the platform. And also one of the things to consider as well is many of our clients are actually deciding to either retire their X account or have massively decreased the amounts of posts that they are putting on the platform. Now, the reason why they're doing this is they are finding that their posts are getting lower impressions and lower engagement. So if you are thinking about retiring X as a platform, then I would first of all look at your stats. You can only see your stats on the posts themselves. The analytics dashboard is only available to Pro X users, so those that are paying. The other thing to consider about X is some organizations, particularly here in the UK, have left the platform because of how it affects their overall brand, how it looks for their reputation to be active on the platform, particularly with Musk being at the helm. So the big one here in the UK was the Guardian newspaper no longer uses X as a newspaper. Some of their journalists are still active on the platform. And also a few of the NHS trusts, the National Health Service trusts, did stop using X last year. So definitely something to consider if you are thinking about whether the platform still serves you, is look at the data and see whether or not users are still using it. 54% of the UK population uses TikTok every month. So TikTok has expanded over the last year or so. And 34% video uploads, they have increased 34%. So they are up. LinkedIn is focusing on video content for 2025. So if you are thinking about growing your community on LinkedIn, you need to be thinking about how you can get more content seeded into that video feed. The video feed is dedicated to 9:16 content, so vertical content. And the type of content that works really well is content that features people, particularly presenting to camera. So do have a think about whether you can get more of that in your strategy for 2025. So one of the other things we wanted to talk about was online shopping. Online shopping has reached new heights over the last year, and particularly Christmas 2024 was a very powerful year for online shopping, with more people doing their Christmas shopping online than ever before. And obviously big events like Black Friday, Cyber Monday have also contributed to the sales that we've seen. Interestingly, millennials have slightly overtaken Gen Z in social shopping on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook. Year on year, social commerce purchases by millennials have surged by 36%. However, there isn't that much in it. Millennials made an average of 21 purchases on TikTok, edging out Gen Z's 20. So there's really not that much in it. It doesn't actually say if that's 21 purchases in a month, a day, or a year. I'm assuming it's a year. I don't think that's a day. But 21, I wonder whether you guys feel like you've done more than 20 or 21 purchases via social commerce over the last year. So those findings are from the Retail Technology Show. And you can find out more information about that from an article on Mobile Marketing Magazine. Also, TikTok emerged as the top platform for social shopping, with an average user making 11 purchases in the last year on TikTok Shop. If you are an e-commerce brand and you're selling products online, you do need to be considering TikTok Shop, particularly if you are targeting younger people, because that really is somewhere where a lot of people are going to make those purchases, to do their research. And a lot of the users can be heavily influenced by influencers on the platform too. So moving on to our next section, I wanted to talk about the key metrics that you need to be measuring in 2025. Let's start by reminding ourselves about something which Adam Mosseri, the CEO of Instagram, has said multiple times in the last year, specifically about engagement.
Some advice. One of the most important signals we use in ranking is sends per reach. So out of all the people who saw your reel or your photo, how many of them sent it to a friend in a DM? At Instagram, we're trying to be a place where people can be creative, but in a way that brings people together. We want not only to be a place where you passively consume content, but where you discover things you want to tell your friends about. A reel that made you laugh so hard you wanted to send it to your brother or your sister. Or a soccer highlight that blew your mind and you wanted to send it to another fan. That kind of thing. So don't force it as a creator, but if you can, when you're making content, think about making content that people would want to send to a friend, to someone that they care about. And it will help you reach over time. More advice to come. Peace.
So that is something that Instagram has hinted at for a lot for the past year, that they are now no longer just looking at likes and comments to determine how well a post has done or how well a post is being received, and that shares per reach are now a key metric that determines how your content performs. So what that means is, particularly on Instagram, more so than any other platform, but you really should be considering whether you have enough content that is going to spark someone to share it with a friend, a colleague, a loved one. And that really does help when it comes to overall seeding in the algorithm. So that's something we will be coming back to. I was really interested this week with Pretty Little Marketer's post on Instagram, The Great Social Shift. So Sophie Miller, who runs the agency, suggests that we're potentially pushing too much engagement as social media managers. We're focusing too much on trying to get people to like or to comment or to vote, when actually we're in the age of the lurker. So most social media users, they don't follow, they don't like, they don't comment. They view, or they might even send as a DM or save. But looking just at your likes or your comments as a metric to determine success no longer paints the picture. And it's something that you yourselves, but also your company, should be moving away from. I do a lot of consultancy with businesses around the UK, and often I find that people are looking at likes as a metric to determine how well a post did. Oh, that one had 5 likes, but that one had 80 likes. When actually it's so much more than that, because the metrics such as shares and saves can really help to enhance your visibility in the algorithm. So trying to re-educate your organization on how we actually value different engagement is really important. And trying to educate your teams that we shouldn't just be looking at likes are still important. I'm not saying they're not, but actually views are important too. And saves and shares can really help seed your content out to new people. Also, we did mention this in our 2025 trend update, but dark social is a big phenomenon. That's any conversations that are happening in DMs. In fact, Instagram have said that DMs is their most active place in Instagram, across all of Instagram. So that inbox is where so much of their activity happens. So think about the fact that so many people are engaging in private channels now. What is it that you can do with your content to make sure that can be shared or sent to someone, whether it's something that's entertaining or valuable, or something that presents the information really clearly that someone might think, oh, this would be useful for my friend or my colleague. So really consider your approach to DMs. And another thing to think about is broadcast channels. So these are rolling out on Instagram. They're not available to everybody, but considering whether your business should have a broadcast channel, or perhaps you're a creator, you might want to have a broadcast channel where you can send out alerts to your audience, which are more of the behind the scenes content. It's a completely different approach to what you post on feed or in stories. It's that first look, exclusive VIP community that you're looking to build. I follow quite a lot of broadcast channels, and the ones that I enjoy the most are where you get a sneak peek, or you feel like you're involved in the decisions that are being made at the business. So one of the ones I'm thinking of right now is a company in London called Humble Crumble. They sell crumble, and they're at a few of the markets across London. And they will get their community to vote which flavor should be the special each month. And so you can only vote if you're part of the broadcast channel. So I did say that likes are still important and comments are still important, but this year there definitely is a shift towards getting people to view your content and getting people to share and save it too. So actually looking at all of these metrics as a larger mix is important. And I think some of the reasons why these metrics like save or share are more valuable now than a comment is because it really signals to the algorithm that this content is high quality and relevant. If somebody shares your post, then it extends the reach of your content beyond your immediate audience, showcasing its perceived value and increasing visibility. And if somebody saves a post, it indicates that they found the content so valuable and so worth revisiting that they wanted to save that as part of their private pin board. Most social media platforms such as Instagram and TikTok consider saves and shares as stronger indicators of engagement than likes and comments. These actions show a deeper connection, a deeper interaction with your content, and tends to help the content perform better in the algorithm. So absolutely think about that whole engagement mix. And I would suggest going forward, if you are kind of counting how many likes or how many comments you've got each month, it's looking at overall engagements and looking potentially at engagement rate as well, which are great metrics to be measuring in 2025. Let's look at a real life example. This is something that one of our member clients posted recently on Instagram. So these insights have come directly from the Meta Business Suite. You can see here that this particular post on the left-hand side received more interactions compared to recent Instagram posts. You can see how many saves and shares that post had, which is wild. It did have more saves and shares than it did comments. So that's really interesting to note that more people were likely to share it than they were to comment on it, indicating this increase in dark social and the rise of DMs. Still has a really healthy like rate though, 19,000 likes. Over on the right-hand side, this is actually the same post, but this is looking at how many views it then had. So because this post had received so many interactions, it also then had more views compared to other recent Instagram posts. And in particular, Instagram decided to show this post to non-followers, 79% non-followers, through recommendations. So they were recommending this content more than anything, because it had had such high levels of interaction, particularly shares and saves and likes. So I think that's really important to look at how Instagram algorithm works in action. Hot off the press just this morning, Mosseri also shared 3 key factors that carry the most algorithmic weight and lead to content being shown to more users. So the top 3 signals that matter the most for ranking are watch time. That's how long people are going to dwell on your video. And also likes, which is another key driver, but certainly not the be all and end all. And also sends. So sends is the last key factor, with the algorithm considering how likely it is that the user will forward this to a friend. So I think it's really important that there is some variance as well, depending on where the content is shown and who it's shown to. This isn't always the case. Likes are slightly more important to show your content to people that already follow you. And sends are slightly more important for showing your content to non-followers. So if your strategy for 2025 is to get more followers and to get more content out to non-followers, then you really need to be thinking about content which is highly shareable on Instagram, and in particular, Reels. So hopefully that's given you a little bit of food for thought around the metrics to measure. I have, of course, focused very heavily here on Instagram. Unfortunately, the other platforms just don't divulge in how their algorithms work quite as openly as Instagram does. So I think Instagram is quite the anomaly there. But I'm very fascinated in the LinkedIn algorithm. So I'm hoping that we'll be able to share more with you in future updates about how LinkedIn specifically is working right now. Okay, so it's definitely time to talk about what is happening with TikTok. Now, obviously, this is concerned with the US market, but many of us are targeting US consumers. We may even have some Americans on our update today. And of course, if you're selling any products to the US, particularly through TikTok, then it's really important to keep abreast of any changes that are happening. So a little bit of context, I'm sure you're all very aware, but even though Trump originally called for TikTok to be banned in 2020, he did a U-turn and has come out as the president that is going to save TikTok. The ban was scheduled to happen on the 19th of January, last Sunday, and in the US, and TikTok did get removed from the app stores, and the ban went ahead for 12 hours. So a lot of people lost access to their TikTok channels. Then, just 12 hours later, a statement from TikTok came out and users were served the welcome back message. TikTok was restored in the US as a result of Trump's efforts. I thought it was interesting how in that message on the right-hand side, TikTok referred to Trump as president, and this was before he was sworn in on Monday. So interesting to see that message kind of almost pre-written, prepared. I'm not sure. I don't necessarily want to speculate on that. But TikTok came back. Trump has signed an executive order, which is actually delaying the enforcement of the TikTok ban for 75 days. So this is to assess a secure way forward that avoids an abrupt shutdown. So TikTok now has 75 days to either pursue a resolution with the government to try and protect national security, or they may still want to go ahead and sell the app, which was what the US wanted them to do to begin with. So we're still in the dark about what's going to happen, but there's a little bit more time for the US Attorney General to decide what action is going to be taken. One of the interesting things that has come out is that Trump actually feels that the US is entitled to half of TikTok. So let's watch this very quick video of President Trump. It is quite quiet, but hopefully you can understand what he's saying.
The US should be entitled to get half of TikTok. And congratulations, TikTok as a good partner. And that would be worth, you know, it could be $500 billion or something. It's crazy, the numbers are crazy. But it's worthless if the president doesn't sign, then it's worthless.
So he's basically saying if the president signs, then they could make I think he said $500 billion from the sale of TikTok, and that the US should get half of it because it's got his signature on it. So we'll see what happens. It's certainly a changing situation every day, and my team has done a very good job at keeping up to date on all of the changes as they happen. Now, one of the things that was spotted over the last couple of days was that the app is still not available to download on the Apple and Google stores in the US. So it does remain missing from these stores. This is something that Forbes pointed out. US users are currently unable to download or update TikTok because it's not available on these app stores. Apple and Google have not commented on whether they plan to reinstate TikTok or other ByteDance apps like Lemonade or CapCut. Apple has stated on its website that it must comply with the ban, which prevents users from downloading or updating affected apps. And legal experts predicted companies that, like Apple and Google, might be reluctant to restore TikTok despite Trump's assurances, because they could face legal risks if he later enforces the ban. So the issue here is that if you don't have the app on your phone, maybe you deleted it on Sunday in the US, you can't re-download it. And also any updates are not available either. So any bug fixes, anything that TikTok wants to do development-wise over the next 75 days will not be available in the App Store or on Google Play. So the app is limited for US users at the moment. So what happened with the creator community that is so heavy on TikTok? Well, leading up to the US ban, we saw influencers and content creators take part in a trend where they exposed lies that they had told or misconceptions that they had created about themselves. So let's take a look at a couple of these. The first on the left is Lexi Hidalgo, who went viral with many of her coffee reviews and recommendations, but she actually has admitted that she didn't actually drink a lot of the coffee.
Since we're all gonna die, there's one more secret I feel I have to share with you. I did not care for The Godfather.
What?
Did not care for The Godfather.
How can you?
So this sound then became trending, which is, of course, the clip from American Guy, I think. And the next influencer is Meredith Duxbury. She shared that she didn't actually use the 10 pumps of foundation in her makeup routines.
Since we're all gonna die, there's one more secret I feel I have to share with you. I did not care for The Godfather.
And finally, I don't know if any of you remember, but I did share this video of the influencer who created all different kinds of ice in her freezer. She shared that she doesn't even like ice in her drink.
Since we're all gonna die, there's one more secret I feel I have to share with you. I did not care for The Godfather.
What?
Did not care for The Godfather.
How can you even say that,
Didn't
Dad?
like it.
So a little bit awkward and embarrassing that now a lot of the influencers have come back and had to either kind of poke fun at themselves to say, yeah, I'm awkward, I'm coming back now, now that TikTok's back in action, or they've perhaps created even more stories or misconceptions. In this case, this influencer, the coffee reviews, was saying nothing was wasted. I did give my mum a lot of the coffee. Let's have a look at this quick video on the right.
Hey. How y'all doing?
Okay, so it'd be interesting to see what happens with those creators and whether they continue to be able to gain traction on TikTok over the next few weeks. One of the things that has happened over the last couple of weeks is the interest in different apps, new apps that other people are looking to as an alternative to TikTok. So one of the ones that has gained a lot of attraction is called Rednote. And Rednote went to the top of the download charts. It is a Chinese app, which people were using as an option, as an alternative option to TikTok. It gained 818,000 new US installs across App Store and Google Play during January, and it has retained its #1 spot in the App Store. One of the issues is that a lot of the platform is actually written in Chinese, so the terms and conditions are in Chinese, but a lot of people were talking about how they were moving over to the app to try and test it out, check it out a bit. Of course, what else is happening is other apps like Likey, which is a short video app, are also seeing a lot of new users. This app went to #2 in the US App Store, and another TikTok alternative called Clapper, aimed at teens and adults aged 17 and up, reached #4 in the Apple Store. Another thing that we noticed is that VPN apps also saw a huge surge as people were really thinking about other ways that they could still continue to run their TikTok accounts. You can also see Threads and Instagram both at #7 and 8 there in the top app charts. So I do think Meta are seeing some positives around what is happening with TikTok. And finally, it's interesting to see that platforms like Duolingo are really also capitalizing on this news. They've seen a 216% growth in new Chinese learners in the US compared to this time last year. I'm hoping that the sound is still clear on today's webinar because there is huge heavy rain happening in my office at the moment. So do let me know if you can't hear me. So finally, what does this mean for the UK? Well, reassuringly, there are no plans to extend this to consumers using the app to share. Well, the MP, Darren Jones, has said, if you're looking to continue using TikTok to share cats or dancing videos, there are no plans to ban TikTok here in the UK. So it does frustrate me that a lot of people still view TikTok as a place to just look at cat and dancing videos, because it is obviously so much more than that. He told the BBC's Sunday with Laura Kunsberg programme, we always keep all of these technology issues under consideration, whether it's for national security or data privacy concerns. We have laws in place and processes to do that, and we have no plans right now to ban TikTok from the UK. So that's reassuring to see. Of course, TikTok is already banned on any government devices. So that is something to consider if you are in government, that still remains. But no plans to ban the app. If you are targeting US consumers, then I would certainly be starting to think about alternatives that you could potentially be using, and also whether or not your TikTok shop is going to suffer. Are there ways of moving some of that content to other platforms? Keep an eye on any kind of Meta, particularly Instagram updates as well. I think a lot of these platforms are trying to lure the TikTok content creators over. And Instagram has recently made a lot of announcements about particular bonus schemes and ways that you can earn money as a creator on Instagram. So definitely one to keep an eye on. So other big news that has happened this year is that on the 7th of January, Zuck made a major announcement that Meta was replacing fact checkers with community notes and loosening rules around what people can say in the apps. This was, of course, met by generally huge negativity. You can see in the comments section there. It's thought that this will now open up the doors for more hate speech in any of Meta's apps. Meta is revising its content rules to permit more discussions on politically debated topics such as immigration and gender identity. They are reintroducing more political content into users' feeds, reversing on their previous efforts to reduce such content over the past 4 years. Meta is also discontinuing its third-party fact-checking program, and it's moving to a crowdsourced program. So this is where the community will be able to add notes to anything that they want to flag, with a view that community notes will show up in the system, which will define and kind of explain anything in more detail, offering a reduction in misinformation. Community notes are going to be implemented across Facebook, Instagram, and Threads. So we don't know what those community notes are going to look like exactly, but they are similar to X's community notes, which we're going to take a look at in a moment. A community note program or community notes section has appeared in the help sections on Instagram and other platforms too. It includes details on the functionality and guidelines of how this is going to work. You can join the waitlist to be notified when you can join the platform, the program. So basically what they want is for people to join the waitlist to say that they want to join the program and be able to leave community notes on topics. So there is, of course, a lot of news and opinion being shared around this about whether it's going to work, whether it is going to protect the platforms enough, how it could potentially be abused as well. One of the things to note is that Facebook certainly doesn't have the dominance it once did around the political agenda. So there are lots of conspiracy theories as to why they have made this move. So one of the things we're just going to have to keep an eye out for is how they're going to look and how they're going to work. We have seen this screenshot, which is from the app researcher Alex193A, who shared how this might look in Threads. You can see on any post you see, you can click the settings and write a community note, and then your note will be anonymous. It gets submitted. I guess the system then works out which community notes it wants to show. But it can certainly be abused. So Meta has told advertisers that community notes won't be available on paid ads. They're only going to show on organic posts. But it hasn't gone into any detail about the plan for brands or influencers' unpromoted posts. X's approach is different. X does allow community notes to be posted on any post, whether it's paid or not, but it does lead to situations like this. So you can see the community notes are at the bottom of these posts on X, where it says readers added context to this image. In fact, all of these examples show an advert selling a product, and the community note is saying it's a scam or don't trust it, or it's not a reputable company. So really interesting to see that is content we could begin to see across Meta. Shortly following the announcement, Google searches for deleting Facebook, Instagram, and Threads accounts increased sharply in the US. According to Google Trends, popular search queries included how to delete Facebook, how to delete all your photos on Facebook, alternative to Facebook. You can see BlueSky seeing some great activity there in terms of people searching for BlueSky, which has a far different approach to moderation, which I'm going to tell you about shortly. A breakout means that the search term grew by more than 5,000%. So alternative to Facebook and BlueSky were the two breakout searches there. Meta is revising its content rules to permit more discussions around politically debated topics such as immigration, gender identity, as I've said. They've also said that essentially they're reintroducing more political content across all of their platforms, which is a massive U-turn on what has previously been said about Threads. So when Threads came out, they said this isn't going to be a platform for news or politics, but actually they're changing that, and their plan is to push more political recommendations into the feeds and I guess see how they perform. The social media giant Meta has now provided more than $100 million for outside organizations certified by the International Fact-Checking Network. So they're going to be obviously saving that money, but it will be really interesting to see how this affects content across the apps. From a social media management point of view, my advice would be you need to make sure you've got moderation processes in place, that you have a really clear strategy on who is going to monitor your notifications, monitor the page, and listen to what's being said across the platforms. It's certainly not a wise strategy to schedule your posts and never look at the platforms themselves. So you need to make sure that you've got time plugged in as part of your social media week, where you are actually going to analyze what's being said on both your pages and relevant conversations or communities you're part of. Because if you do start to identify more dangerous conversation, it's a really important thing to consider whether your brand is going to be visible alongside that conversation as well. So we will see what happens to the advertising side of Meta, because of course, if they get this wrong, then I can imagine a lot of advertisers will no longer want to be presenting their ads right next to any content which is, debating immigration, for example. So we will see, but with everything in social media, I'm sure it's a topic we'll be coming back to and revisiting as the platforms begin to tweak. So it's been quite the year so far, hasn't it? And one of the things that happened this week was Instagram decided to make loads of announcements about lots of new features. There's were actually so many happening that we decided to create a carousel about that on our Instagram feed, which you can go and have a look at. But the 5 updates you need to know about really are that Instagram's moving away from square grids, rolling out tall grids. You can fit and fill your content. So you can re-crop it and edit it to adjust it so it looks good. We're also going to see custom thumbnails, highlights being moved, the ability to reorder your grid. You can also post longer reels, up to 3 minutes now. And they're going to be launching a brand new video editing app called Edits. So let's have a look at each of those updates in a little bit more detail. The first is 3-minute reels.
Starting today, you can upload reels to Instagram up to 3 minutes long. Now, historically, it's only been 90 seconds, and that's because we've wanted to focus Instagram on short form video, not on long form video. But we've heard a lot of feedback from a lot of you creators out there that 90 seconds is just too short. So we're hoping that upping that limit up to 3 minutes will help you tell the stories that you really want to tell. Let me know down below in the comments what you think. Peace.
So interesting that only on the 2nd of January this year, they advised that 30 to 90-second videos were actually better for being recommended to anyone that doesn't follow you. So if you want to get in front of non-followers, they kept saying less than 90 seconds is the best length for a video. But on Tuesday afternoon, they announced that moving forward, they will continue to improve how they surface longer reels across recommendations. So you can see on the right-hand side there that they're now kind of backtracking on that 90 seconds being the limit. And they're starting to experiment more with longer 90-second to 3-minute reels. So we will again see what happens, but I think it's certainly something to experiment with as to whether that works for you in terms of being served to non-followers. Also, we're about to see a brand new app launching. I think it's launching in February in the coming weeks, called Edits. Looks suspiciously like another app I use, so I'm sure you've got some thoughts on it too. It's not just an editing tool, but a suite of creative tools, and it's on phone only, so there will be no desktop version of this. Here are some screen grabs you can see. So there's going to be a dedicated tab for inspiration and trending audio. There'll be a new higher quality camera, the ability to share drafts with friends and other creators, all of the expected video editing tools. If you share to Instagram as a reel, there'll be powerful insights about how the reels are doing. And also the editing app will be completely free to use as well. So you can pre-order it now in the App Store, but it is officially launching in February. So we'll be testing that out and reporting back. And then also the new vertical grid layout is rolling out for many users at the moment. So as with a few of my team, we've got this from our personal accounts, but not our business accounts yet. So keep an eye out for this. But we actually suggested back in September that you should stop posting squares on Instagram and start posting these sized images, which are known as the tall feed. You can see that this has messed up a lot of people's feeds. You can see that it means your text might be cut off, or you might have, slightly different elements focused in on that cover. You do have the option to use fit and fill, where you can actually change that cover and make it a lot more customizable so it fits that overall aesthetic. Other updates that are coming from Instagram are customized thumbnails on your grid, being able to, your highlights moving to a tab on your profile. So that's interesting. I think they're seeing fewer people engage with highlights, so they're moving them slightly away from that main homepage of your profile, and giving people more control over the grid. So they're going to allow people to drag and reorder posts on their grid, which is interesting because for many years in social media, we were all quite obsessed with the aesthetic of how our grids looked. That very much got moved away as TikTok dominated, and it became less about that overall look of the grid and more about your content. Whereas I think we're going to move back into how your overall grid aesthetic looks and how people perceive your brand on those first few seconds they land on your feed. And then a bonus update is the option to add directly and only to your grid. So you'll be able to put some things directly on your grid so they won't then show in feed. So interesting to see how that is going to work as well. So lots and lots of new changes coming from Instagram. So the other app that I wanted to talk about today is BlueSky. I'm getting asked quite a lot about BlueSky at the moment in terms of, should we have a profile there? Is it worth it? Is it the new X? There's still a lot of interest in the app. They are only at 28 million users globally, though. So that is a very small community compared to some of the other ones. However, in 2024, they did grow from 2.8 million to 25.9 million users. So they have seen huge growth over the last year, but TechCrunch did report that BlueSky is now seeing slowed down in growth in December. So we'll see whether that continues into January as well. But daily active users of BlueSky's mobile app in the US increased. So people are increased by 12%, which was a significant decline from the 284% growth seen in November. So it's one of those things, whenever there's a new social media app that people get really excited about, people download it, they sign up, and then they just don't use it. So we're still going to see whether BlueSky does become a competitor to X in 2025. My advice would be, if you do have a personal account on BlueSky, have a look around and see whether you can find many of your target audience types using it, what kind of conversations are happening. It may be worth grabbing your username, which takes 5 minutes, just so you've got a profile that you could potentially use if you decided to. There are a lot of new features that BlueSky is working on at the moment. So they have just launched trending topics. Trending topics are accessible worldwide. So they've literally just started testing those. Also, they are big on links. So unlike some of the other social platforms, links don't always perform great. If you put a link in a post on LinkedIn or X, sometimes you can find that it could be slightly degraded in the algorithm. However, BlueSky CEO has said, we love links. And she's actually said that a couple of times, that they definitely don't downgrade links, and that they value them. So if you are an account that does post a lot of links, then BlueSky could certainly be a great place to help you drive more web traffic. Also, they've just announced a new video feed as well. So if you are thinking about posting more video content, then BlueSky is also going to help accommodate that too. Who's using BlueSky at the moment? There's still a lot of the media using BlueSky. So a lot of journalists use it, a lot of tech folk using BlueSky, but more and more people are starting to experiment with it for sure. I haven't seen a huge amount of businesses have a profile there. So I think that's something we'll certainly be keeping an eye on in 2025. I did mention that I would talk to you about how their moderation is different to Meta. So BlueSky, obviously with more users and such a rapid growth of users, they have seen with that more harmful content be shared on the app. In their moderation report, they found that users submitted a 17-time increase in reports to the moderation service compared to the previous period, the previous year, 2023. A lot of these reports were related to harassment, trolling or intolerance, spam and misleading content, and also a lot of accounts posing as other people. So that is a known issue, and they've updated their impersonation policy. They've also got a more aggressive approach to cracking down on content. They've increased their moderation team to roughly 100 people, and they are continuing to hire more staff. So they are very much going down the using human moderators that work for BlueSky. So it'll be interesting to see the difference between that and how Meta's approach works this year. So I always like to kind of round up these sessions. It has been a whirlwind session today with a little bit of fun of some cool campaigns that we've seen or some ideas for trending content. So I'll very quickly whiz through these, and then we've got a few minutes left if you've got any questions for me. The first was a campaign that we noticed called The Real Greek, which was, of course, done by The Real Greek. They asked if the UK recognized modern culture. And if people guessed it correctly, they got sent one of 10,000 free souvlakis via a QR code, driving people in restaurants. So we thought this was a lovely campaign. You can see the QR code just on the bottom right of these billboards. And of course, it got a lot of people talking in social media too. Also, another one which we've been seeing around this trend to publish a spelling mistake quite publicly to then maybe get some social media interaction around that. So Cause Light published this advertisement last week, obviously in New York and in various publications. It had a big typo in it. So the word refreshment was misspelt there. They repackaged that as the case of the Mondays. They have then created a specific product that they are launching around their advertisement for the Super Bowl. So they're going to be offering drinkers a chance to win a case of Monday's Light after its Super Bowl commercial airs. So they're definitely using up the criticism and comical comments that it received in social media around the blunder into a campaign tied into its upcoming Super Bowl commercial. So I'm pretty sure that was all planned out.
We all get a case of the Mondays sometimes. So to chill out everyone's case of the Mondays, Coors Light is giving America a case of the Mondays for the worst Monday of the year. The Monday after the big game. A case of the Mondays has never sounded so chill.
And then finally, this is a fun trend I've seen quite a lot being used by product-based businesses. So have a think about whether this is something that you could utilize. And this was on Instagram and TikTok. So just holding out a product and having someone chase down the street to it. So you can find that, you can see the Instagram user there. You can use the templates to apply your own trend to that. Okay, so I'm going to open the floor to Q&A now. Sorry, I haven't left a huge amount of time for that. While you're thinking about whether you have any questions for me today, let me just first of all point out a few useful resources that you might want to download from our website. We launched the Avocado Social Awareness Days calendar this week. So we've listed out all of these important awareness days that are hopefully relevant to your industry and brand. You can scan the QR code to download that, or you can find that on our website in the downloads section. We also have a ton of useful and interesting events coming up. So really focusing on improving your confidence and knowledge around paid advertising. So if you'd like to join us for Meta advertising or LinkedIn advertising, there are sessions that we've got coming up towards the end of this month and also in February. And then, of course, we've got our next free update happening on the 27th of February too. So you can just scan the QR code and you'll find all the information there. And finally, we love to talk about all things social media. So if you do have any questions or you want to reach out about anything, then please don't hesitate to do so. My email address is there, and you can find out some more information about us on the website too.